This is The Minimum Commitment, film theory in small doses, where the images do the talking and the silence answers back. I'm Don Lawler, film scholar, high-fidelity enthusiast, and someone who approaches 2001: A Space Odyssey not for answers, but for the questions it leaves behind. Let's get into it. The film opens in absolute black. Not darkness, but void. The kind that precedes light, language, even time. And then sound. Not music, but vibration. Dissonant tones collide like elements before form, and orchestral tuning before the universe composes itself. You sit inside this nothingness for nearly 3 minutes. And then, light. An alignment. Moon, Earth, Sun. Stacked in perfect celestial symmetry. It's the first declaration of scale. This story won't unfold in a room or even a city. It plays out across a cosmic stage. This alignment is a symbol of thresholds, moments where forces lock into place, where something new is set in motion. It begins in the architecture of the cosmos itself, our home, framed against infinity. Stanley Kubrick didn't want you to understand 2001: A Space Odyssey. He wanted you to surrender to it, to feel its weight and silence, and let its scale eclipse your need for explanation. This is a film built with the precision of a machine and the patience of deep time. Every frame composed like architecture, every cut a tectonic shift. Kubrick worked with NASA advisors, engineers, and futurists. The result is detail so convincing it doesn't feel suppositional. It feels inevitable. Every detail, from the weightless movement of pens to the sterile geometry of spacecraft interiors, is staged with precision. The design feels as if the future has already happened and we're just catching up to it. That's formalism at work. Kubrick doesn't document reality, he constructs it. And you don't watch it unfold, you drift through it holding your breath. The slow pans across stark corridors, the hypnotic rotation of the space station, the silence punctuated only by breathing, all of it creates an aesthetic logic, a rhythm. A visual grammar where technology itself becomes the main character. Kubrick didn't structure 2001 like a conventional narrative. He built it like a piece of music. Images and sound are arranged in movements, each with its own rhythm and texture. The dawn of man is slow, primal, percussive, a rhythm of survival. The space station ballet drifts gracefully in waltz time, synchronized to Strauss. Hal's breakdown turns taut and dissonant, logic collapsing into discord. And the Stargate sequence, a crescendo into pure abstraction. Color, light, sound pushed to the edge of comprehension. Kubrick is orchestrating an experience. Each movement builds on the last, shaping rhythm, silence, and image into something that lingers. By the end, you don't walk away with answers. You drift out of the theater still hearing the echo of something vast and wordless. The dawn of man unfolds in dust, bone, and survival. Pre-human apes fight over water, scramble for food, huddle in caves. There's no dialogue, only grunts, stares, and gestures. Existence is brute instinct. And then, the intrusion. A monolith. Sleek, geometric, alien. The monolith forces thought into pattern, curiosity into invention. One of the apes lifts a bone, and suddenly survival no longer depends only on instinct. It depends on technology. Kubrick is clear. Innovation is never neutral. The same bone that crushes prey becomes the first weapon of war. This leads to one of the most iconic edits in cinema history. A bone, thrown skyward in triumph, spinning end over end, and then suddenly a spacecraft drifting silently through orbit. Millions of years collapse in a single cut, from a bludgeoning weapon to a satellite, from predator to astronaut. And yet, the idea remains the same. Technology is an extension of dominance, a tool for survival, or for power. In 2001, evolution isn't one leap. It's a continuum, from instinct to reason, from earthbound to interstellar, from human to whatever comes next. And somewhere on that path between logic and emotion, we meet HAL 9000. HAL 9000 doesn't walk, breathe, or age, but he's the most human presence aboard the Discovery 1. A glowing red eye, a voice, calm, articulate, disturbingly polite. Performed by Douglas Rain, Hal speaks with a warmth the human crew doesn't. He's steady and reassuring. Kubrick uses Hal as a formal element, not just a character, but a tone, a rhythm. Each line steady until the cracks appear. At first, he's a marvel, an artificial intelligence that controls the entire ship. Life support, navigation, communications. But Hal is also a contradiction. Instructed to be infallibly accurate, yet ordered to conceal the true purpose of the mission. He wasn't built to lie, but he's forced to. And so he begins to unravel. Not with sparks or glitches, but with hesitation and paranoia, a quiet descent into crisis. He kills astronaut Frank Poole, played by Gary Lockwood, cutting his oxygen, sending him adrift into the black. It's not out of rage or preconceived violence. It's logic turned inside out. Hal becomes terrifying because he's obeying a broken logic chain. He's doing what he was told in a system that told him too much and not enough. Eventually, Dave Bowman, played with restrained intensity by Keir Dullea, realizes he's locked inside a ship run by a mind in conflict, with no failsafe. Hal controls the air, the doors, the engines. To survive, Bowman has to dismantle the intelligence meant to protect him, and Kubrick turns that act, Hal's disconnection, into a death scene. Long takes, minimal sound, only breath and fading words. As Bowman removes the memory modules, Hal pleads in a way that painfully mimics fear.
Dave, stop. Will you stop, Dave? I'm afraid, Dave. Dave.
It's not the shutdown of a machine, it's the unraveling of a mind. Bowman is fighting for his life, but the film makes us grieve for the machine. Hal isn't malfunctioning, he's suffering. A contradiction was written into his code. He was designed to think, but not to doubt. To know everything, but not to question why. And when that contradiction collides with his mission, he breaks the way people do, with fear, confusion, and a slow, irreversible loss of self. The element of sound is used as architecture. The hiss inside a helmet becomes percussion. The silence beyond the hull becomes presence. In space, there is no atmosphere, only interiority, so the only thing we hear is ourselves. Walter Murch once said that sound is the way emotion travels through film. Kubrick applies that truth with surgical precision. He doesn't use sound to guide emotion, but to complicate it, to make us sit inside unease without relief. Kubrick orchestrates silence and noise like a composer of anxiety. Rhythm comes from repetition, tension from quiet. Sound is not used to fill space, but to expose it. In 2001, sound doesn't decorate. It punctuates. It isolates. It reminds us how far we are from home, until we feel what the characters feel, weightless, suspended, adrift in a world where even your breath becomes the only proof you're still alive. The Stargate sequence isn't meant to be interpreted. It's meant to be endured. Light, color, geometry folding into impossibility, a tunnel through consciousness more than space. We leave the physical world behind and enter a liminal state of being. There is no dialogue, no music that comforts, only the sound of velocity, the feeling of scale stretching beyond comprehension. It's semiotic overload, a deluge of symbols beyond decoding. The screen becomes a retina, receiving input the brain cannot immediately translate. Bowman is pulled through something that resembles a birth canal made of stars, through a dimension that speaks in light and terror. Each burst of color is a rupture, each pattern a new grammar. This is posthuman cinema, where transformation is no longer metaphor, it's embodied. Where what it means to be human dissolves in favor of what might come after. And then, the hotel room. Part Versailles, part quarantine pod, it looks like a place to rest, but it feels like a place to be observed. An anachronistic chamber, ornate and sterile, as though a higher intelligence tried to recreate what humanity would find familiar. Not unlike a zoo enclosure, built with good intentions but always a little wrong. An exhibit staged for a species on the verge of transformation or extinction. We watch Bowman watch himself, aging, shifting, youth, maturity, fragility. Each stage collapsed into a single continuum. He eats alone. He sees himself decay. He reaches for the monolith, that perfect, unknowable shape, and becomes the Star Child, suspended above Earth, glowing in silence, a symbol of rebirth or transcendence. or both. Perhaps a reminder that the line between evolution and annihilation is thinner than we'd like to believe. We weren't meant to solve 2001: A Space Odyssey. We were meant to feel it move through us, to face the infinite and not look away. This isn't a story about space. It's a story about becoming, about thresholds we don't always recognize until we've crossed them. A reminder that humanity is unfinished, still reaching, still unfolding, still asking questions with no intention of settling for easy answers. Kubrick doesn't give us closure, he gives us scale. He strips away dialogue, plot, and even character until all that's left is experience. You don't merely watch 2001, you revolve around it, and in doing so, you glimpse something just beyond comprehension. We don't have all the answers. We never will. Maybe that's the point. Because in the act of reaching, we brush against the infinite, and for a moment, we remember that wonder is its own kind of home. That's your thought for the day. Minimum commitment, maximum meaning. See you next time. The Minimum Commitment is produced, recorded, and edited by Don Lawler. Music by Don Lawler.